Will you mate with my daughter? A helpless alien mom begged everyone. Only one human said yes. The central hall of the Galactic trade station was louder than usual. Voices from 100 different species echoed under the high metal dome. Screens floated in the air, showing trade numbers, law notices, and entertainment feeds. For most beings, this place meant power, profit, and pride. For one alien mother, it meant shame. She stood alone in the middle of the hall. Her body was thin, her skin pale and cracked like dry stone. Her long arms trembled as she held onto her daughter, who was barely standing. The girl was young, much younger than she should have been. Her eyes were dull, her breathing slow and weak. Every step looked painful. Around them, aliens stopped and stared. Some pointed, some laughed, some whispered cruel words. "This is not a place for beggars," one armored warrior said loudly. Another alien, tall and shining with golden plates, sneered. "Why bring a dying child here? Is she trying to sell pity?" The mother heard everything. She lowered herself to the cold metal floor and slowly knelt. The sound of her knees hitting the ground echoed like a final answer. Silence spread. Then the whispers grew louder. The Galactic station had strict laws. Every species knew them. Weak bloodlines were not protected. If a species could not survive on its own, it was allowed to fade away. Mercy was not part of Galactic order. The mother raised her head. Her voice was rough but clear. "My daughter is dying," she said. "Our bloodline is breaking. Only one path remains." The crowd leaned in, already knowing what she would say. She turned, looking at the warriors first. Strong ones, famous ones, those with medals and power. "Will any of you accept her?" she asked. "Will any of you mate with my daughter, so she may live?" Laughter burst through the hall. The alien commander shook his head. "Your species has nothing to offer." Another spat on the floor. "Your blood is weak. It would shame mine." A noble from a high race waved her away. "Find a lesser station. Do not beg here." Each rejection hit harder than the last. The daughter tried to speak, but coughed instead. The mother held her tighter. Her eyes filling with tears she refused to let fall. She turned again, this time toward merchants, scientists, even criminals. The answer was always the same. "No, never. Go away." Minutes passed. The station returned to noise. People lost interest. To them, this was just another failure of a weak race. But not everyone looked away. At the edge of the hall stood a human. He wore simple work clothes, marked with cargo codes, no armor, no weapons, just a small badge that read, "Human Logistics Officer." Humans were not respected here. They were new, small, short-lived, emotional. Most aliens saw them as helpers, not equals. The human watched quietly. He saw how the mother's hands shook. He saw how the daughter tried to stay strong. He saw the cruelty in the smiles around them. The mother turned one last time. Her eyes scanned the crowd, already knowing the answer. Then her gaze stopped. On the human. A murmur spread. Is she looking at a human? Does she not understand? That species is useless. The mother stood up slowly and faced him. She walked across the open floor, dragging her tired body forward. When she reached him, she did something no one expected. She bowed, deeply. The hall went silent. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Human, will you mate with my daughter?" Shock froze the air. The human did not answer at once. He looked at the girl. Her eyes met his. There was fear there, yes, but also dignity. She was not begging, she was enduring. The human felt something tighten in his chest. A round two.
Aliens laughed again. Humans cannot save anyone. He will run. This is a joke. The mother waited. She did not cry. She did not shout. She only waited.
The human took one step forward. At that moment, before the answer was given, if you are enjoying this story, please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps these stories reach more listeners across the stars. The human finally spoke. But before anyone could hear his answer, alarms echoed across the station, and the fate of 3 lives changed forever. The alarms echoed only for a few seconds, but the silence that followed felt heavier than noise. Red warning lights washed over the Galactic trade station, then slowly faded back to normal white. Nothing had truly gone wrong. No attack, no danger. Yet everyone felt it. Attention returned to the human, the alien mother, and the weak girl standing between them. A tall enforcer drone floated closer, its cold mechanical eyes scanning the scene. "Unauthorized disturbance detected," it announced. "Explain." The alien mother straightened her back. Her voice did not shake now. "I am exercising my right under ancient survival law," she said. "I have asked for aid. I was refused. I have asked again." The drone paused, processing old codes that few remembered. "Law confirmed," it said at last. "Proceed." That answer shocked the crowd more than the alarms had. Whispers exploded again. Why a human? Does she know their history? This will end badly. The human remained still. He felt hundreds of eyes on him, heavy with judgment. He had lived with this feeling before, on many stations, on many worlds. Humans were never welcomed the way others were. Long ago, when humanity first reached the stars, they came with hope. They believed effort mattered. They believed courage could earn respect. They were wrong. Humans had no natural armor, no claws, no psychic gifts. Their ships were average, their bodies fragile compared to most galactic races. In early wars, humans lost colonies. In early alliances, they were pushed aside. Aliens remembered those losses well. To the galaxy, humans were survivors, but survivors without strength. Useful workers, cheap soldiers, temporary allies, never leaders. The human knew all this. He had heard the jokes, seen the looks, signed contracts no other species would accept. He looked again at the alien girl. Her breathing was uneven now. Breath seemed like effort. The mother noticed his hesitation and spoke quickly. "I do not ask for love," she said. "I do not ask for loyalty, only life." The girl lowered her eyes, shame burning in her cheeks. "Mother," she whispered, "please, stop." But the mother shook her head. "I will not let you die in silence." An alien scientist pushed forward, adjusting his glowing neckband. "This is pointless," he said sharply. "Human genetics are unstable, too emotional, too aggressive under stress. Mating compatibility is near zero." Another added, "Even if the child survives, the result could be dangerous." Dangerous. That word caught the human's attention. He turned toward the speakers. "Dangerous how?" he asked. The crowd quieted again. Humans rarely asked questions in such places. The scientist hesitated. "Your species adapts too quickly. Your instincts are unpredictable." The human nodded slowly. Unpredictable. That was another word the galaxy used when it feared something it did not understand. The alien mother stepped closer to him. Her voice dropped, meant only for him now. "If you say no," she said, "she will be taken away. Her body will be studied. Her bloodline will end on a table." The girl flinched. She had known this truth but never heard it spoken so clearly. The human felt anger rise, slow and heavy. Around them, the crowd waited. Some wanted him to refuse so they could laugh again. Others were curious, eager to see a human fail. He thought of Earth, of stories told by firelight and screens, stories of standing up when no one else would, stories where humans lost but stood anyway. He exhaled. "Why her?" he asked the mother. The mother looked surprised, then relieved. "Because she carries an old gene," she said, "older than our species. It reacts only to those who protect, not conquer." "Then why did no one tell the crowd?" the hum asked. A bitter smile crossed her face, because then they would have killed her already. The hall grew colder. The girl finally looked up at the human. Her eyes were tired but clear. "I do not want you to feel forced," she said softly. "I am already dying. I do not want to be a burden." The human met her gaze. He saw something familiar there. Acceptance. That scared him more than fear would have. The station announced, "Decision window closing." Aliens leaned forward. This was the moment they would remember. The moment a human chose what humans always chose. The human clenched his fists, then relaxed them. He did not answer yet. Instead, he asked one final question, his voice steady. "If I accept," he said, "who will protect her when the galaxy decides it was a mistake?" No one answered. And in that silence, the truth became clear. The galaxy never protected the weak. Only humans did. The human took a single step forward, and the crowd realized too late that this was no longer a joke. The human's single step forward felt louder than any alarm. The metal floor echoed beneath his boot, and the sound rolled through the hall like a warning. Conversation stopped. Even the floating screens dimmed slightly, reacting to the sudden drop in station noise. The alien mother closed her eyes for a moment, as if she had been holding her breath for years. Before the human could speak again, a sharp voice cut through the silence. "Stop this at once!" Members of the Galactic Council entered the hall, their robes glowing with shifting symbols of authority. Wherever they walked, others moved aside. Power followed them like gravity. One counselor pointed at the alien mother. "You are hiding information. This request is not simple survival." The mother straightened, fear flickering across her face, but she did not deny it. "Yes," she said quietly, "because truth here is a death sentence." The human turned to face the council. "Then tell it now," he said. "All of it." The counselors exchanged looks. Finally, one spoke. "The child carries an ancient genetic marker," the counselor said. "A dormant trait believed lost. It does not grant strength, weapons, or psychic power." The crowd relaxed slightly. "Then why the fear?" someone shouted. The counselor continued, "Because it grants something worse." The lights in the hall dimmed further. "It grants adaptation beyond prediction," the counselor said. "The ability to evolve in response to threat, not over generations, but within a single lifetime." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The human frowned. "That sounds like survival." "It is," the counselor replied, "which is why the galaxy erased it long ago." The mother's voice trembled now. "My people were once protectors. We did not conquer. We endured. Others feared what they could not control." The daughter swayed, her legs weakening. The human moved without tea, hinking and steadied her. The touch was gentle. The reaction was immediate. Her breathing eased. Several scanners nearby flared to life, numbers spiking wildly. The scientists stared at their screens. "Impossible," one whispered. "Human proximity is stabilizing her condition." The counselor's eyes narrowed. "This confirms our concern." The human looked down at the girl. She stared at his hand on her arm, surprised by the warmth. "I feel less cold," she said softly. For the first time, a small hint of color returned to her face. The crowd shifted. Fear replaced laughter. "If this continues," a counselor said, "the child may awaken the trait fully." "And if she does?" the human asked. "Then the galaxy will see a being who adapts to every attack, every trap, every attempt to control her," the counselor said, "a living answer to oppression." The human felt the weight of that settle in his chest. The daughter finally spoke louder, forcing herself upright. "If that is true," she said, "then why am I treated like a disease?" No one answered her. The mother placed a shaking hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Because survival scares those who live in comfort." The station announced again, colder this time. "Decision window closing, 10 cycles remaining." Security drones drifted closer, not threatening, yet. The human felt the pressure now. If he refused, the child would be taken, studied, ended quietly. If he accepted, the galaxy would never forget. The mother looked at him, her eyes full of something deeper than hope. "Trust. You do not owe us this," she said. "But if you walk away, at least know she did not die weak. She endured until the end." The girl met his eyes one last time. There was no begging in her gaze, only honesty. "I am not afraid of death," she said. "I am afraid of never being allowed to live." The human closed his eyes briefly. He thought it of Earth again, of humanity's long history of being told to stay quiet, stay small, stay in place, of how humans survived not because they were strongest, but because they refused to stop standing. He opened his eyes. The crowd leaned in. The counselor raised a hand. "Choose carefully, human. Your species is already watched." The human stepped fully into the center of the hall. "I choose," he said calmly. The station held its breath. "Yes." The word fell softly, but it shattered everything. Alarms screamed again, this time real. Medical teams rushed forward. Energy fields snapped into place. The council shouted orders. The crowd panicked, and as the human reached for the girl's hand, ancient systems buried deep within the station awakened. Systems not activated in thousands of years. Somewhere in the dark between stars, something noticed, and it began to move. The medical chamber sealed itself with a heavy metallic sound. Transparent energy walls rose around the human and the alien girl, separating them from the shouting crowd. Red symbols flashed across floating screens as ancient systems woke from long sleep. Doctors rushed in, their movements fast but nervous. This was not a normal procedure. Nothing about this was normal. "Begin stabilization," one scientist ordered. Machines surrounded the girl, thin lights scanning her fragile body. Her heartbeat appeared on a large screen, slow, uneven, fading in and out like a dying star. The alien mother stood behind the barrier, her hands pressed against the glowing wall. She could not look away. She had already lost too much to close her eyes now. The human remained calm. He stood beside the girl, exactly where the machines allowed him to be. He had no armor, no training for this moment, only instinct. "Human proximity confirmed," a machine announced. "Unexpected reaction detected." Lines on the screen began to move faster. Her vitals are improving, a doctor said, confused. That should not be happening yet. The counselors watched from above, their expressions tight. This was no longer curiosity. This was concern. The process began. Energy flowed through the chamber, low and humming. The girl gasped softly, her fingers tightening around the edge of the medical bed. The human noticed and gently placed his hand over hers. The moment their skin touched, every monitor spiked. Warning symbols flooded the screens. Energy surge. Adaptive response detected. Systems overloaded. The lights flickered violently. Several machines shut down at once, unable to handle the change. "This is impossible," a scientist shouted. "Human DNA is triggering defensive evolution." The counselors leaned forward. The girl's breathing changed. It became deeper, stronger. Color returned. Fully to her face now, her skin glowing faintly with new patterns, lines that had never existed before. The mother cried out, unsure if this was healing or harm. Inside the chamber, the human felt it too. Heat spread through his body, not painful but powerful. His heart raced, his muscles tensed, his senses sharpened. Every instinct inside him screamed one message: protect. The girl opened her eyes wide. They were no longer dull. They reflected the lights around her, sharp and alive. "I can hear everything," she whispered. "I can feel change." Alarm screamed again. "Containment failing," a drone announced. Energy fields strained, bending outward like glass under pressure. The council shouted orders. "Shut it down! Stop the process!" But the machines did not respond. "The system is ignoring commands," a technician said in panic. "It has switched to autonomous mode." Ancient symbols appeared on the central display. Symbols no living being could read anymore. A quiet voice filled the chamber. "Protective bond confirmed." The words echoed, calm and absolute. The girl sat up suddenly. Doctors stumbled backward in shock. Her movements were smooth now, controlled, strong. The human instinctively stepped between her and the others, not as a threat, but as a shield. The scanners went wild. "Her genetic structure is rewriting itself," a scientist said, voice shaking. "She is adapting in real time." The counselors felt fear then, true fear. This was not what they had erased long ago. This was something more. The girl looked at her hands, watching faint light pulse beneath her skin. "Mother?" she called. The mother fell to her knees outside the barrier. "I am here," she sobbed. "I am here." The human looked at the counselors through the energy field. His voice was calm but firm. "You laughed at her," he said. "You called her weak." No one replied. "See, he survived your cruelty," he continued. "Now she is changing because someone finally stood with her." The energy surge reached its peak. Then, silence. The lights stabilized. The alarms stopped. The machines powered down one by one. The barrier slowly faded. A single message remained on the main screen. Adaptation complete. Subject stable. The girl stepped off the medical platform on her own. She did not stumble. She did not fall. The entire hall froze. The alien mother stood, trembling, afraid to believe. "My daughter?" she whispered. The girl turned and smiled. Not weak, not afraid. Alive. Across the station, whispers spread like fire. The galaxy had laughed at humans. Now, watching what stood before them, the galaxy began to understand something far more dangerous. They had been wrong. And whatever this bond had awakened, it was only the beginning. The hall did not return to noise. It returned to fear. The girl stood at the center of the chamber, her posture straight, her breathing calm. The faint glow beneath her skin slowly faded, but something else remained, an invisible pressure that made even the strongest beings step back without knowing why. Scanners tried to read her again. They failed. Her energy signature is gone, a scientist said, confused. No, masked, actively hiding. The counselors stiffened. A being that could hide from galactic sensors was not a miracle. It was a threat. The human felt it too. Not fear, but awareness. The girl's presence felt like standing beside a quiet storm, controlled, waiting. The alien mother reached her, hands trembling as she touched her daughter's face. "You're warm," she whispered, tears falling freely now. "You're alive." "I feel more than alive," the girl replied softly. "I feel awake." That word echoed badly among the council. One counselor stepped forward, voice sharp. "This changes nothing. The agreement ends here." The human turned slowly. "You said survival law applied," he said. "You confirmed it." "Yes," the counselor replied. "And survival has been achieved. The child is no longer dying." Several drones drifted closer. "Therefore," the counselor continued, "custody now transfers to the Galactic Authority." The mother gasped. "No, you promised." "There was no promise," the counselor interrupted coldly. "Only permission." The girl's expression did not change, but the lights above flickered once. The human stepped forward. "No," he said. The word was simple, final. The hall froze again. "You do not have authority to refuse," the counselor warned. The human looked around the station, at the watching aliens, at the silent drones, at the child who had been mocked, shamed, and almost erased. "She's not property," he said, "and she's not ours." Security systems activated fully now. Energy weapons powered up. The temperature dropped. "You will step aside," the counselor said, "or be detained." The human did not raise his voice. "Try." The girl finally spoke, her voice calm but carrying strangely through the hall. "If you touch him," she said, "you will fail." Some laughed nervously. Then the first drone moved. It shut down mid-air. No explosion, no noise. It simply fell. More drones advanced, lights dimmed, systems glitched, walls hummed under invisible pressure. "EMP field detected," someone shouted. "No, this is not electromagnetic," another said in panic. "It's adaptive interference." The girl lifted her hand slightly, not as a threat, but as instinct. The station bent around her, not breaking, listening. The counselors stumbled back, shock finally breaking their control. "Contain her!" one screamed. Too late. The girl lowered her hand. The pressure vanished. The drones remained lifeless on the floor. Silence followed. The human stared at her, not in fear, but in understanding. Humanity had always adapted by standing together. She had adapted by learning the same lesson. Across the galaxy, sensors lit up. Human ships detected the energy shift. Messages spread. A human has triggered an ancient trait. A protected bond has formed. A child survived the impossible. On distant worlds, human captains looked at the data and made the same decision. They were not coming to conquer. They were coming to protect. Back in the hall, the counselors regrouped, fear twisting into anger. "You have created a problem that will not be ignored," one said. The human nodded. "Good." The alien mother stood beside her daughter now, no longer kneeling. Her voice carried pride for the first time. "You took everything from us," she said to the council. "Now you will watch us endure." The girl looked at the human. "They will send others," she said quietly. stronger, crueler. I know, he replied. The station shook slightly then, not from her power, but from something else. A long-range alert flashed across the hall. Multiple fleets entering system. Alien fleets, and human ones. The galaxy had made its move, and so had humanity. The warning echoed through the station again, deeper and more serious than before. Multiple fleets confirmed. Estimated arrival, minutes. The words spread fear faster than sound. Aliens rushed toward exits. Merchants abandoned cargo. Warriors activated shields that suddenly felt too small. The counselors stared at the main display. Red icons marked alien fleets, large, armed, and confident. Blue icons followed behind them. Human ships. Not many, not impressive in size, but they moved with purpose. The human in the hall felt it before anyone spoke. A quiet shift in the air, the feeling humans knew well. They were not alone anymore. You called them, a counselor accused, pointing at him. The human shook his head. No, he said. They came because we always do. The alien mother held her daughter close. What will they do to her? She asked, fear returning to her voice. The girl listened to the distant hum of ships entering the system. Her eyes narrowed slightly. They will try to take me, she said, because I cannot be controlled. Outside the station, space lit up with movement. Alien fleets formed defensive lines, weapons charging. Human ships did not spread out. They stayed close together, tight, united. A communication request appeared on every screen. Incoming human transmission. The council hesitated, then accepted. A human face filled the display, older, scarred, calm. This is Captain Reyes of the Human Coalition, he said. We detected an unlawful threat against a protected bond. The counselor scoffed. You have no authority here. Reyes did not raise his voice. We don't need it. Another counselor leaned forward. You are outnumbered. Reyes nodded once. We've been outnumbered in our entire history. Behind him, human officers stood silently. No fear, no anger, just focus. The girl felt something inside her respond. Not power, but connection. She could sense them, their intent, their resolve. They will not attack first, she whispered to the human. But they will not retreat. Inside the station, alien commanders argued loudly. Some wanted to strike before humans could act. Others remembered old battles, how humans fought when defending family, not territory. The alien mother stepped forward, her voice strong despite the chaos. You taught us survival meant standing alone, she said to the council. Humans taught us survival means standing together. The station shook again, this time as docking clamps engaged. Human boarding ships arrived. Security systems tried to lock them out. They failed. Doors opened. Humans entered the station calmly. No shouting, no raised weapons. They moved like guardians, positioning themselves between the girl and every threat. Aliens stared in disbelief. These were the same humans they mocked. The same ones they ignored. Now they formed a living wall. Captain Reyes's voice returned over the speakers. We are not here to take the child, he said. We are here to ensure she is never taken. One counselor hissed, You will start a war. Reyes paused. No, he said. You will. The girl stepped forward then, gently moving past the human beside her. The humans did not stop her. They trusted her. I do not seek destruction, she said, her voice carrying through the hall without effort. I seek choice. Her presence pressed against the station again, not violently, not threateningly, But everything listened. Weapons powered down on their own. Ships outside hesitated. "She's controlling the systems," someone whispered. "No," another replied in fear. "She's being accepted by them." The girl turned to the council. "You erased my kind because you feared what adapts," she said. "Now you fear humans for the same reason." The human beside her spoke quietly. "We adapt," he said, "but we also protect." The alien mother bowed, not to the council, but to the humans, not in weakness, in respect. The council realized the truth too late. This was no longer about a single child. This was about a species that bonded beyond blood, beyond race, beyond fear. Outside, alien fleets slowly powered down weapons. They had seen enough. The girl felt it then, something awakening fully inside her, not rage, not dominance, purpose. She looked up at the stars beyond the station walls. "They will remember this moment," she said softly. The moment humans stepped forward. And across the galaxy, history began to change. The station was silent. Not the quiet of fear anymore, but the quiet of understanding. Human soldiers stood calmly in place, not as conquerors, but as guardians. Their weapons remained lowered. Their eyes stayed alert. They did not celebrate. They waited. Outside the great windows, the fleets hovered in balance. Alien ships, human ships. None fired. None advanced. The galaxy was holding its breath. The girl stepped forward again. With each step, the faint pressure followed her. Not heavy, not violent, but undeniable. The station lights dimmed slightly, responding to her presence, as if she were part of its core systems. She looked small compared to the vast hall. But no one saw her as weak anymore. "I was born fragile," she said, her voice steady and clear. "I was called useless. I was laughed at." Her eyes moved across the crowd, meeting faces that once turned away. "I survived because someone chose to stand with me." She turned to the human beside her. He said nothing. He did not need to. "Humans were mocked too," she continued, "not because they were cruel, but because they felt deeply, because they protected instead of ruled." A murmur spread through the hall. The Lors stood frozen. Their authority felt thin now, fragile in a way laws could never protect. One counselor finally spoke, voice strained. "What do you want?" The girl did not answer immediately. She looked to her mother first. The alien mother stepped forward, no longer bowed, no longer shaking. Her posture was straight, proud. "I want my daughter to choose her future," she said. "Not to be owned, not to be erased." The girl nodded. "And I want the galaxy to remember this moment." The pressure lifted suddenly. Systems returned to normal. Weapons remained offline, not forced, but unwilling. The council realized something terrifying. She was no longer reacting. She was deciding. Captain Rhea's voice returned one final time. "Humanity makes this claim," he said. "Any being under a protected bond with a human is not alone, ever." The words spread fast, faster than ships, faster than fear. Across the galaxy, records updated automatically. Ancient laws rewrote themselves, not by command, but by acceptance. A new classification appeared, protected by humanity. The council had no answer. One by one, alien fleets withdrew, not in defeat, in respect. The girl turned to the human. "You did not save me by force," she said. You saved me by staying. He smiled faintly. That's what we do. The alien mother reached for both of them, tears in her eyes. My child will live, she whispered, because you reminded the galaxy what survival truly means. The station slowly returned to life, trade resumed. Voices returned, but something had changed. Laughter no longer followed humans. Silence did, because now, when humans walked through galactic halls, others remembered this day. The day a helpless mother begged, the day a child adapted, the day humans stepped forward, not as rulers, but as family. And the galaxy learned a final truth. Humanity was never weak. It was patient, and when it chose to stand, the universe listened.